If you're curious to hear a little music from our guest Carla Lucero, who we spoke to in our most recent episode, check out E4TT's annual concert of music by women and non-binary composers, Midnight Serenades, on January 25th. Welcome to For Good Measure, an interview series celebrating diverse composers and other creative artists, sponsored by a grant from the California Arts Council. I'm Nanette McGuinness, Artistic Executive Director of Ensemble for these times. In this week's episode, we continue our Da Capo Conversations, a mini-series where we'll be giving familiar segments a topical twist. Today, we revisit Monica Chu's and Brice Smith's advice for young women and early career artists. Here's what Monica Chu had to say.
My advice for composers, not being an experienced composer myself, is that you should just try it if you're interested. And the worst thing that'll happen is that you'll write something that you don't like, which is just part of learning. So I hope that anybody who's listening and is interested in composing won't have any fear about doing that and will feel like they have the right to create their own music and perform it. And if it's bad, then it'll join a long legacy of bad pieces that is an important part of our tradition. So, it's so interesting to me as a classical musician, thinking about, especially this past year, when we had this big Beethoven centennial, about how much of our concept of what makes a good Beethoven performance is based on many, many decades and generations of brilliant performers doing their best to play Beethoven over and over and over and over again. And we don't dedicate the same time and energy to new music. And because of that, sometimes when a new piece gets played for the first time and it doesn't go well, the composer may not be lucky enough to have the piece performed a second time, or enough times for someone to really understand the piece, for the piece to find the right performer and the right audience. So I would say, even if you write a bad piece, just keep going. Eventually you'll have the right combination of the score and the performer that somebody will feel something from something that you wrote eventually, I think.
Here's what Brice Smith had to say.
This is such an important question and reflection. And I often tell students, colleagues, and friends that who we are matters. Our ambitions and our life story, it truly matters. It's important for us to live in a constant world of curiosity and to work to notice details. We should pursue ideas that energize us, even if we find them daunting. It's almost certain that we will be judged or misunderstood. However, it's important for us to take criticism and use what works for us and improve ourselves.
Thank you for listening to For Good Measure's Da Capo Conversations, and a special thank you to our guests for joining us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast by clicking on the subscribe button, and support us by sharing it with your friends, posting about it on social media, and leaving us a rating and a review. To learn more about E4TT, our concert season online and in the Bay Area, or to make a tax-deductible donation, please visit us at www.e4tt.org. This podcast is made possible in part by a grant from the California Arts Council and generous donors like you. For Good Measure is produced by Nanette McGuinness and Ensemble for these times, and designed by Brennan Stokes, with special thanks to co-producer and audio engineer Stephanie M. Neumann. Remember to keep supporting equity in the arts, and tune in next week for Good Measure.